Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I stand to support this bill. Mr. Speaker, not for anything else, but Mr. Speaker, the spirit of Harambee was a very, very noble spirit, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this spirit, the idea of Harambee came up as a result of a long struggle of our people to gain independence. And during those days, Mr. Speaker, the colonial authorities tried as much as possible to divide our people, to segment them into regions and into tribes so that they could continue exploiting them. And there were people who foresaw this and thought of a spirit which could unite our people in the struggle for independence. And there was the clarion call. It was started by just an old man who used to shout very hard in Harambees, in rallies, in political rallies in Kisumu called Omolo Ngiro. He used to say, Harambee, hey, Harambee, hey, tuvute pamoja, tuvute pamoja. So when Kenyatta saw him, came for a rally in Kisumu, and so this man was saying, tuvute pamoja, Harambee, wee. So he liked the spirit and then now made it political. So when we became independent, Mr. Speaker, you can see the house. The first building which was put up by the government was called Harambee House. Even the street where it stands, where the president used to sit, is called Harambee Avenue. Mr. Speaker, this was a very, very good spirit. It was started with very noble ideas. And at independence, Mr. Speaker, people spoke of three enemies of the people of Kenya. One was poverty. The second one was illiteracy. And the third one was disease. These were the three greatest enemies. And the independent government said, we must fight to eliminate these enemies in the spirit of Harambee. Because the poverty levels in our country were very, very high. And Mr. Speaker, over the period, more than 60, 70 years now, we have not been able to deal with these enemies of our people effectively. And therefore, poverty still persists, disease still persists, illiteracy, that is problems in education, still persist. And that is the reason why people are very passionate about Harambees. We are defending Harambees because we have been unable, as by successive governments have been unable to eliminate or to eradicate or even to reduce substantially these enemies of our people. That is disease, illiteracy, and poverty. And if you are a representative of people and you go over the weekend to your homes, the people who turn up to see you, they see you because they have medical problems, they are unable to pay school fees for their children, and some of them have problems of even feeding their families, Mr. Speaker. And this is a shame. This is a big shame to our country. And Mr. Speaker, the reason why our people remain poor, and a few people have managed to earn, to gain wealth, and become so wealthy that they are able to even expose it everywhere, throw money everywhere, fly in choppers everywhere, is because we are not strictly implementing. I like this Constitution of 2010. It brought rights of people. Those rights cannot be fulfilled if we are not serious with managing our resources properly. Those rights, like the right to education, like the right to life, like the right to decent living, decent housing, and so on. Those rights are in our Constitution. And then there's Chapter 6, dealing with leadership, because corruption is normally done by the leadership of the country. Mr. Speaker, the leadership of the country are the ones who expose this excessive opulence in public, and then, therefore, the public anger grows slowly, 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 until it comes to a point of explosion. That is what you people saw here in what was called Gen Z movement, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the reason why I support this bill is because the way Harambees have been managed is not right, Mr. Speaker. It is not right even for our own people. These Harambees have been harmful to our people. I can tell you, Mr. Speaker, when I was a member of parliament and I was managing CDF, when you manage CDF and you go to a school to talk to a principal of a school, and you ask him, between CDF and Harambee, which one would he prefer? Any headmaster will tell you that they prefer Harambee. Because Harambee money is not audited, it is the loser money which he can use for any purpose he likes, and without regulating that money, Mr. Speaker, our people will continue to see big monies being raised in those institutions, and yet the result on the ground, the implementation is almost zero. The benefits to the people is almost zero. Mr. Speaker, I can tell you there are instances. I can give you an example of an instance when I went to my old school where I was educated, Mr. Speaker. I went there to do an Harambee because I wanted to build for them a dormitory. I found that the school is congested, the dormitories are congested, and I wanted to build a dormitory for them. And I called my friends, including Governor Orengo and so many. We flew there. Some of them came in choppers, these choppers we are talking about, and we raised money. We raised millions of money and deposited there. And we thought that I was going to continue to be raising money until we complete the project. A year and a half later, 2 years later, I was told there's nothing on the ground. And then the reason I was told is because the headmaster who was there, the principal of the school who was there when I was raising money, had already retired, and therefore there was nobody to account for the money, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I also had an occasion where we raised money through CDF, I raised money through Harambee. There was money for a project of ablution block. I went with officers from the education office, from the county council, and from my office. We went there, the teacher was so embarrassed. He was showing us the same project on which Harambee had been done, CDF had paid money, even the central government had paid money through the Ministry of Education. And he was very unfortunate because I carried all these officers with me. So when we went there, the education officer was asking him, Mwalimu, I thought this was done by our money. The county councilman was also saying this was done by money from Latif. I was also saying this was done by an Harambee, and then there was also CDF. So you find so much corruption, particularly on Harambee, on the Harambee side. So the Harambee needs to be regulated. It needs to be audited, even for public institutions. We don't just have to throw money there because it is good for our people. It is not reaching our people. It is not helping. And it is very easy to mismanage that kind of money without regulation. That's why I support this. And Mr. Speaker, there is also the other aspect of this where we need to regulate these Harambees. Because, Mr. Speaker, when you go to a public officer who is supposed to offer free service to the people, you go there as a chief. You find that a chief is supposed to give you a permit, free, burial permit for your dead and you are bereaved. Supposed to give you a permit free. He has an Harambee book for his home church, which he has kept here. So when you give him your case, it is a land case or dispute or something like that, he produces that he says, but Mheshimiwa, I also have a small Harambee for my church. Can you please give me something small for this Harambee? And this is something which you are not giving voluntarily because you want to give him for Harambee. You are giving him because you need him to give you that service which he is supposed to be giving you for free, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, therefore, the public officers must be regulated. Public officers include us. And Mr. Speaker, I support the spirit that public officers should not be allowed to be guest of honors in Harambees. They should go to Harambee and contribute their own money. They should not go to Harambee, that me and my friends. Who are those your friends? We don't know how you got those friends. I mean, why don't you ask your friends also to contribute directly to those Harambees? Why are you coming there to say, me and my friends? Just go to an Harambee. And Mr. Speaker, the idea that, you know, the source of money are the elected leaders, that they are the ones with, they are the ones with money, and whenever you even go to pray in a church, you know, a small Harambee will be created for you. But Mr. Speaker, I don't like this. I think public officers should be banned from being guest of honors in Harambees. They should participate in Harambees. Harambees should not be banned, should not be regulated. This idea of permit I don't like. But Mr. Speaker, the public officers to go to be guest of honors, and therefore they come there with huge sacks of money that they have been given by their friends, their friends. Let them come to Harambees and contribute their own money. And Mr. Speaker, this is something practical. When I was an assistant minister of finance in the Kibaki regime, we were not allowed to give money in Harambees, not to be guest of honors. We were allowed to do Harambees. We could go to Harambees, you can participate in the organization, but you don't have necessarily to be the guest of honor. Let other people be guest of honors. Let even maybe your competitor be a guest of honor. It doesn't matter. He can give so much money, but it doesn't mean that he is going to be elected. When the elections are nearing, maybe those Harambees can be stopped a little for 6 months or for some months, but there should be no restriction. I mean, there should be restriction in making public officers guests of honors and also bringing monies from their friends. They should bring their own contributions to those Harambees. Mr. Speaker, I don't want to say much more on this, but I support that Harambees should be there. There should not be licensing for them. I don't like the idea of the CEC or the CEC at the county level issuing permits, or the cabinet secretary at the national level issuing permits. But we should have a law which regulates public officers, and they can be taken to court for doing what they are not supposed to do. This question of permits is taking us back to bureaucracy. It is taking us back to, creating some monsters. It is taking us back to the days we had left long time ago, Mr. Speaker, where the permit issue made the DCs so powerful that we had to go to the offices to line up for licensing, and sometimes just because he doesn't like you, he refuses to give you, and he gives somebody else, or he is supporting somebody else, and he is not supporting you in an election. So he thinks that if you do an Harambee, you are going to have some advantage over the opponent whom he supports, and he just refuses to give you license. So this issue of creating those kind of monsters, Mr. Speaker, I don't like, but I support the bill, and I hope that when it comes to the third reading or to committee of the whole House, we are going to tax it and make necessary amendments. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Hilary Sigay.
Mr. Speaker, I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to also